My name is Seraphine Caldwell. I turned 27 the morning my mother texted me not to come to my sister's wedding. Born into Charleston's version of American royalty, old money, old manners, and a house too big for affection. I was the youngest daughter of a family that only smiled when cameras were present. While Cressida, my older sister, was groomed for society columns and champagne toasts, I was the one behind the spreadsheets, booking vendors, and writing the checks no one thanked me for. I always felt like the hired help who accidentally shared their blood. And maybe I would have stayed quiet, stayed useful, if I hadn't found out what they did with my name, what they signed in my name, what they planned to bury in it. The wedding was never the end. It was the beginning of everything they'd tried to hide. The message came at 6:42 p.m. Please don't come. The family wants a drama-free wedding. Below it, a small gray heart. Cressida had liked it. I sat in my parked car outside the rehearsal dinner, the hem of my dress still pinned, my fingers still red from floral wire. Across the street, the Caldwell estate glowed with rented lights and fake laughter. I watched as trays of champagne passed through open doors I wasn't meant to enter. Control the guest list, control the narrative. Millicent's voice echoed in my head. She'd said that once, while icing out a cousin for getting too loud about inheritance. I looked down at the phone again. My thumb hovered over the screen. No tears, no shaking, just stillness. Then I opened the email app. Vendor folders, contracts, timelines, a catering invoice from 2 hours ago with my name at the bottom. My name. I scrolled faster. Floral logistics, audio deposits, tent rental. Every line item had my name tied to it, legally, financially, but I didn't sign the last wire approval. I never authorized that payment. Yet, it was there, signed, dated, sent. 10 minutes later, I was back in my apartment. I double-locked the door, kicked off my heels, opened my laptop. The banking portal blinked at me. 1 login, 2-factor. My phone buzzed. Access granted. 3 accounts. 2 with familiar numbers. 1 new. Family trust, emergency dispersal authorization. I stared. I didn't create that. I didn't name it. But my social security number was linked. I checked the recent activity. A single transfer, $38,500, marked. Wedding vendor consolidation. To a holding company in Delaware. I copied the recipient name and pasted it into a search engine. Nothing. Burner company. No website. No contact. A shell. Someone knocked on my door. Sharp. 3 taps. I froze. It came again. Just once this time. I moved slow. No footsteps outside. No shadows. Then the mail slot clicked open. Something slid through. A padded envelope. No return label. Inside, a plain black USB stick. I turned it over. No writing. No logo. For a second, I considered throwing it out the window. Instead, I plugged it into the burner laptop I kept from college. No Wi-Fi. No Bluetooth. Clean. 1 file. Play under say, MOV. It opened to security cam footage, grainy, angled down. A bank lobby. Millicent stood at the counter in a pale coat. Hair tight. Voice low. She was signing something. The camera zoomed automatically. Not enough to catch her face, but just enough to catch the form. I paused. Zoomed. Form 325E. Trust transfer authorization. Below it, signature. Seraphine Caldwell. My stomach turned to stone. I'd never been in that building. Never seen that form. Then a second figure stepped into frame. Male. Tall. Back to camera. She handed him the form. He handed it to the teller. They walked out together. The footage cut. I sat motionless for a long time. Outside, Charleston moved on. Horns honking. Waves crashing soft somewhere beyond the concrete. Somewhere, Cressida was probably smiling for a camera. I looked down at the contract folder again. My name blinking in bold. They didn't just disinvite me from the wedding. They framed me for funding it. The USB stayed in the laptop. I didn't sleep. By morning, the city was already sweating. I could hear gulls fighting above the market rooftops, a sound too sharp for a Sunday. My hands trembled as I poured coffee. The pour went long. Steam blurred the glass. That video wasn't just proof of forgery. It was a goddamn app. Millicent, signing in my name, with a man whose face never turned to the camera. A man who walked like he didn't need to rush. No hesitation. No guilt. Old money doesn't panic. It erases. I dialed Graham. 3 rings. Seraphine. I need help, I said. Legal help. A pause. Then where are you? I gave him the name of a coffee shop on East Bay. Public. Cameras. Witnesses. He arrived wearing sunglasses and a fresh shave, but his shirt was wrinkled. That told me everything. He left in a hurry. Don't say anything yet, he said, pulling out his tablet. Let me show you something first. He slid over a screen. Spreadsheets. Account routing. Withdrawal logs. Your name's not just on the wedding contracts, he said low. You're on a shared account. Millicent filed it as a joint operations dispersal account. She forged that, I said. I know, but the money's already moved. I looked at the numbers. Clean, strategic withdrawals. Time transfers. All under IRS reporting thresholds. This wasn't wedding overspending. It was laundering. We didn't talk long. A woman in sunglasses entered. She wasn't looking at the counter. She was looking at me. I nodded. Graham caught the signal. We split. I looped around the block. Let her follow nothing. By noon, I was at the Wren house, the venue Cressida rented. No one stopped me. They recognized me. Still called me the planner. A voice buzzed behind a curtain. I stepped closer. Wire needs to clear by tomorrow or she'll pull it, someone said. No bride, no product. You want us out of this? Pay the invoice. A man's voice, not Graham's. The curtain shifted. I moved back. Fussed. I needed a name. I needed a damn face. The assistant coordinator spotted me near the vendor station. Oh, Seraphine. Cressida said you might stop by. That was a lie. Mind if I grab a copy of the guest seating? I asked. Sure, she said. They've been changing it so much, I can't keep track. She handed me an older version. I glanced at it. Froze. 20 names I'd never seen before. No affiliations. No plus ones. No family ties. Phantom guests. Fake IDs. Silent investors. Security. I folded the list and slid it into my coat. Back home, something was wrong. My mailbox was ajar. No envelope. No yank. Inside my apartment, the air felt off. The window latch wasn't how I left it. I swept the floor. Nothing stolen, but something had changed. In the kitchen, a gift bag from the rehearsal. Lavender tissue paper. It wasn't mine. Inside a photo. Me. Age 7. In a flower girl dress. Ripped down the middle. Red, ink across the back. Stay out of the way. I didn't scream. I called Graham. No answer. I called again. Voicemail. Then my mother. She picked up. Sounded like she'd been sipping something sweet. Is everything all right, darling? You used my name. You moved trust money. That's federal fraud. Seraphine. Soft. Measured. You're being dramatic. Do you know how ugly that word sounds when you say it? Fraud. This isn't a crime. It's logistics. You framed me. We protected you. You never understood how much we cleaned up after your mistakes. I could hear wind in the background, like she was on a porch. Relaxed. I won't be quiet, I said. Then don't be surprised when nobody listens. Click. An hour later, a brick smashed through my front window. I hit the floor. Glass rained around me. The brick was wrapped in a black cloth. Inside it, my old bracelet. The one Dad gave me at 15. The clasp was broken. It had been yanked off. I held it in my hand. Then I found the note inside the cloth. Stay down, Sarah. You're not built for this. I checked the security cam in the hallway. Nothing. Except, 2 hours earlier, someone buzzed in. The front desk said it was a delivery. No package ever arrived. I didn't sleep. Again, I stayed up cataloging everything. Every document, every signature, every message, labeled, backed up. Because this wasn't about a wedding anymore. This was about survival. I scrolled to the guest list again. The unknown names. Then cross-checked them. One matched a corporate address. Shell Company, LLC, registered to Delaware. Then I opened my email. And there it was. A notice from the bank. Final payment failed, legal action pending. To my name, my signature, my address, and my debt. I didn't need a betrayal from a stranger. I had one growing in my bloodline. The morning of the wedding, Charleston woke up, drenched in sun and silence. Not even the birds dared to chirp. It was the kind of stillness that came before a storm, when nature knew something you didn't. I stood across the street from the Caldwell estate, dressed in black. No makeup, no jewelry, just the flash drive in my pocket and 3 pages of notarized evidence clipped in a folder that smelled like ink and war. There's a difference between family and blood. I once heard a judge say, one's earned, the other's inherited. Today I came to collect. Guests drifted into the estate like ghosts, men in suits too expensive for Charleston, women in diamonds that whispered, but no one recognized me. Not like this. The FBI van rolled up late, unmarked, windows tinted. Agent Rowan stepped out first. Blue blazer, earpiece tucked. Her eyes never stopped scanning. You sure you want to go in first? She asked. Yes, I said. This needs to end with my voice, not a badge. She nodded. Behind her, 2 marshals exited, badges ready but hidden. Inside, the ballroom glowed. Floor-to-ceiling drapes. 1,000 white roses. Cressida stood at the far end, veil trailing like smoke, her back to the crowd. Millicent hovered near the microphone, hand gripping a flute of champagne. I walked in just as the string quartet struck their final note. Someone gasped. Someone else whispered my name. Cressida turned. Her smile froze. Millicent's hand stiffened. I stepped up to the platform. Good morning, I said, voice steady. I'm Seraphine Caldwell, the woman who paid for this wedding, and the woman who was never invited. Someone laughed, awkward, nervous. I dropped the folder onto the podium. Before you toast the bride, I'd like to show you what she and my mother did with my signature. Rowan plugged in the USB. The screen behind the altar lit up. The video played. Millicent, at the bank, signing my name. The crowd didn't blink. Then came the transfers, the ghost accounts, the trust funds rerouted through Delaware, a spreadsheet of every fake vendor, and finally a screenshot of the loan default notice, issued under my SN. Cressida's face drained of color. Her hand twitched. Someone screamed. A guest bolted for the door. The marshals moved. Quick. Clean. Intercept. The man hit the floor hard. It was Graham. Rowan looked at me. I nodded once. You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit wire fraud, identity theft, and financial exploitation, one of the marshals said, snapping cuffs on. Graham didn't resist. He just looked at me. I didn't want this, he said. It was supposed to be clean. Just one more job. Clean. I whispered. You forged my life. The ballroom turned to chaos. Phones out, cameras rolling, people shouting over the music that hadn't stopped playing. Cressida stormed toward me. You ruined everything. I didn't move. You did that the moment you signed my name. You could have just disappeared, she hissed. You always knew how to be invisible. There it was. The truth. Not fear. Not regret. Just exposure. Then Rowan stepped forward again, this time with another envelope. Your name's also on this, she said, holding it out to Cressida. A federal complaint. Accessory to fraud. Attempted money laundering. Cressida's hands shook. I didn't. The ink matches your handwriting, Rowan said. You signed the catering contract. Silence snapped over the room like thunder. Millicent hadn't moved. She stood like stone, one foot still raised on a small platform. But her eyes were alive, burning. You think this will bring you back? She asked me, softly. To this family? No, I said. She nodded. Then what do you want? Truth, I said. And consequences. Cressida lunged. No warning. Her hands went for my face, nails sharp. I ducked left. She stumbled. A marshal moved in, grabbing her arm. No, you don't understand, she screamed. She wasn't supposed to show up. She wasn't supposed to survive it. Millicent said behind her, almost too quiet. But I heard it. And so did Rowan. Excuse me. Rowan turned. But Millicent just smiled. And walked off the stage. Outside, rain had started. Late. Whispering. Rowan stood beside me, arms crossed. We'll sweep the house, she said. If there's a ledger, if there's a safe, it ends tonight. The crowd was thinning. Photographers trailed like shadows. I turned toward the gates. That's when I saw him. A man, tall, watching from across the street. Gray suit, hands folded, eyes locked on me. And then he smiled. You think this is over, Sarah, she whispers as she's cuffed. This family doesn't fall. We bury threats. Rain collected on the edges of my sleeves as I walked away from the estate, Rowan matching my pace. Her gaze kept flicking left and right, scanning every doorway, every parked car, every shifting shadow. You said someone was watching you, she murmured. He wasn't watching, I said. He was waiting. A man in a gray suit, a smile that didn't bother pretending, a presence that felt like a verdict. Rowan exhaled sharply. Then we moved fast. Cutscene. We climbed into the unmarked bureau sedan. Doors locked with a heavy click. The air inside smelled like leather and cold metal. Your mother's statement is contradicting itself every 10 minutes, Rowan said, pulling up a file. And your sister's trying to pin the entire laundering scheme on Graham. Of course she is. Cressida always did believe consequences were for other people. Rowan smirked. You're calm. I'm not calm, I said. I'm focused. A cornered person can't afford panic. Her expression softened. Someone once told me that the truth is a blade, sharp enough to free you or cut you open. Depends on who's holding it. And right now. I asked, You're holding it. Cutscene. We arrived at the Charleston Federal Building. White stone, tall glass doors, cameras that turned with crisp mechanical whispers. Inside, fluorescent lights hummed overhead, too bright, too clean. Agent Nolan met us in the hallway. He looked rattled, jaw tight. Seraphine, we need to talk. Rowan tensed. What happened? He motioned us into a conference room, closed the blinds, turned on white noise generators. Something's off with your financial file, he said. There's an account we didn't catch yesterday. My mother's shell? I asked. No, this one was created 8 years ago. The screen lit up. A trust. My social security number. My signature, again forged. But the date, I was 19. What is this? I whispered. Nolan swallowed. A life insurance policy. You're the insured, but the beneficiary is redacted. Redacted by who? By someone with federal clearance. The room dropped 10 degrees. Rowan leaned forward. Why would anyone forge a life insurance policy for a teenager? For leverage, I said. Or an exit plan. Cut scene. I paced the room, my pulse thudding against my throat. Another quote bubbled up, something my grandmother used to say. Some families don't break, they calcify around their secrets. Mine had turned into bone long ago. Rowan's phone vibrated. She looked down, blanched. What? I demanded. The breach in your apartment wasn't random, she said. We just pulled the building's hallway footage. Someone was there 10 minutes before the break-in. Who? She turned the screen. The tall man in the gray suit. The same silhouette from the wedding. I stepped closer. Breath shallow. My father, Leonard Caldwell. Everyone thought he was in Europe. Business trip. Extended travel. Executive board retreat. Lies. All of it. He's been in Charleston this whole time, Rowan said. Nolan added, and he's connected to the shell corporations. All of them. The floor seemed to tilt beneath me. Cut scene. We need to get you into protective custody, Rowan said. Now. No, I said. Not yet. Not until I know why he came back. Nolan's jaw flexed. Sarah, listen. I want to hear him say it, I said. I want an answer. Rowan placed a palm flat on the table. Answers won't matter if you're dead. I stared at her. He followed you, she pressed. To the estate. To your apartment. He's escalating. He already escalated, I whispered. I just didn't realize who held the match. Cut scene. They moved me to a bureau safe house on the outskirts of the city. Small. Reinforced windows. Backup generators in the crawl space. The type of place built for people who weren't supposed to exist for a while. Nolan handed me a burner phone. 2 numbers programmed. Mine and Rowan's. You don't open the door. You don't answer unknown calls. I know how a safe house works. He hesitated. Seraphine, your father wasn't just avoiding federal charges. He was avoiding someone even bigger. He may not be working alone. My chest tightened. What does that mean? Rowan answered softly. It means the wedding wasn't a front. It was a deadline. Cut scene. That night, I lay awake on the narrow safe house bed. The hum of the generator pulsed through the walls. Rain tapped lightly against the roof, like fingers. I couldn't shake the feeling of eyes in the dark. Someone watching from beyond the tree line. Someone waiting for the lights to go out. At 1:13 a.m. they did. Total blackout. The hum died. The room drowned in silence. My breath hitched. I reached for the burner phone. No service. Not possible. There was always service. Unless the tower was jammed. A faint click echoed outside the door. Metal. Soft. Deliberate. Not Nolan. Not Rowan. They would announce themselves. I stepped back, heart pounding. Shadows stretched across the carpet, growing longer, reaching like hands. Another click. Then a whisper of movement along the siding. Footsteps. Slow. Measured. Confident. My mirror reflected only darkness. But I saw it clearly, the outline of a man through the curtain. Tall. Still. He lifted a hand, tapped the glass once. My blood iced, and his voice drifted through the night, silk and venom. I didn't disappear, Sarah. I came home. I wasn't being watched. I was being hunted. The generator didn't come back on. I stayed perfectly still, my back pressed against the drywall, listening to the night breathe. My father's silhouette lingered behind the curtain, motionless, patient, predatory. Then footsteps retreated, gravel crunching, a car door shutting with a soft thud. Silence swallowed the room again. I didn't move until headlights swept across the window and vanished down the dirt road. Cut scene. I grabbed the burner phone, stepped into the bathroom, and locked the door. My pulse echoed inside my skull. I dialed Nolan first. No signal. So I tried Rowan. No signal. The entire network was jammed. Control the lines, my grandmother used to say, and you control the narrative. Someone was controlling far more than the narrative tonight. Cutscene. I waited 10 minutes. Opened the curtain. The yard was empty, but branches bent as if someone had shoved through them moments earlier. A single boot print sank into the mud. Not Nolan's. Not Rowan's. My father had been close enough to breathe the same air. I packed the evidence folder and slipped out the back of the safe house. The woods were black, thick and loud with insects. Every sound felt personal, aimed at me, aware of me. I ran. Branches whipped my arms. Mud splashed. My lungs burned. There's no future we run from, I muttered under my breath. Only futures we're forced into. A truth as bitter as it was steadying. I hit pavement half a mile down and flagged a passing pickup. The driver slowed, a middle-aged woman, confused, cautious. You in trouble, honey? Yes, I said, but I'm trying to get out of it. Get in. Cutscene. She dropped me at a Waffle House off Highway 17. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, flickering like a dying heartbeat. The smell of burnt coffee hit me hard. I took the corner booth. Open sight lines. 2 exits. Cameras above the register. A safe enough place to breathe. My phone finally caught a bar, weak but alive. Before I could dial, Rowan called first. Where the hell are you? Her voice shook. The safe house, Sarah, it's been breached. I know, I whispered. I saw him. A beat. Your father. He said he didn't disappear, I said. He came home. Rowan cursed softly. Listen carefully. We dug deeper into the shell corporations. There's a paper trail your mother couldn't have built alone. You think someone else engineered it? No, Rowan said. We think your father did. Years ago. Before you turned 19. Cold slid down my spine. He forged the life insurance policy, didn't he? He did more than forge it, Rowan said. He made you the center of a long-term financial structure. Something he could collapse or cash out on command. I tightened my grip on the phone. So I wasn't a daughter. I was an asset. Another beat. You were a contingency plan. Cutscene. A man in a dark hoodie entered the Waffle House. Didn't order. Didn't sit. Just stared. Rowan kept talking. You need to get somewhere secure. We'll pick you up. Not yet, I murmured. Sarah, don't be stupid. I need the truth. All of it. She sighed. Then I'll give you another piece. Graham confessed something tonight. My breath caught. What? He said your father wasn't avoiding the bureau. He was avoiding someone else. Someone who funded the original shell accounts. The man in the hoodie moved closer. Slow. Intentional. Who? I whispered. You're not going to like the answer. Cutscene. The man stepped into the light. Not my father. Not a stranger. A former Caldwell house manager. Someone who disappeared years ago after accusing Millicent of unethical practices. He raised a hand, slightly, not threatening but warning. Don't turn around, he mouthed. I froze. He slipped a sealed envelope onto my table, then walked out the side door without a glance back. My fingers shook as I opened it. A single document. A scanned signature. Leonard Caldwell. Millicent Caldwell. And below them, my forged signature again. But the title froze the air in my lungs. Emergency Custodial Transfer Agreement. Beneficiary, Millicent Caldwell. Autorisation, L. Caldwell. Asset, Seraphine Caldwell. I wasn't just an insurance policy. I was collateral. Cutscene. Rowan's voice was frantic on the phone. Sarah, what did he give you? Proof, I whispered. Proof my mother wasn't the puppet. Sarah. She was the puppeteer. And then the lights inside the Waffle House flickered. Once. Twice. Died. My reflection appeared in the window, dim, ghost-like. Behind it, outside in the dark, a tall silhouette stood just beyond the glow of the street lamps. Still. Watching. My blood turned electric. The voice message from earlier replayed in my head. Uninvited. If she becomes a liability, eliminate the variable. My phone buzzed. One new text. Unknown number. Time to come home, Sarah. The hangar smelled like jet fuel and cold metal. Rain hammered the tarmac in eager rhythm. Lightning forked overhead, white against black. A storm of sound and shadow. My father stood beside the jet, arms folded. Millicent watched from a distance, calm and distant like she already won. Cressida hovered near the door, silent, terrified. They thought they had the final move, the escape, the exit script. I walked in with Agent Rowan, a team of marshals, and a full evidence dossier. The floodlights froze everything in harsh relief. I became the reckoning. Cut scene. I stepped forward. Rain pounded my back. My boots on concrete. Every drop a countdown. You took more than money, I said. You tried to take my life. Millicent's lips curved. Sweet Seraphine, she said. You always were dramatic. Behind me, the marshals spread out. Rowan handed me a packet. Papers. Names. Offshore accounts. Flight logs. Wire trails long enough to sink the Caldwell name in any court. The air smelled of gasoline and guilt. My father raised a hand. Stop this, he said. You don't know what you're doing. I know exactly what I'm doing. I paused. I'm undoing it. Cut scene. Millicent moved. Fast. Kept her balance, despite the slick concrete. She drew a gun. A shot cracked. My boots hit rubber bullets. Rowan dove behind crates. I felt heat, sharp. Splintered concrete. Pain ricocheted down my leg. I stayed still, air whipping in my ears. Then the rain mask sound. Another shot. Glass shattered. The hangar lights flickered. In the chaos I saw Leonard. He turned, but not to raise hands. To reach down. A black case. Leather-bound. Locked. Whatever was inside. Whoever they were running from. That case held it. I sprinted. Footsteps behind me. Rain blinding. Crates collided with boots. A muffled grunt. I slammed into the case and ripped the latch. Inside, passports. Federal agency IDs. Ledgers. Names. A smudge of old blood on the inside edge. Recoil. A flicker of memory. Childhood. A safe. A lockbox. Whispers. Bribes. Threats. They weren't laundering money. They were laundering legacies. Secrets. Lives. People. I dumped the case onto the floor. Marshals flooded in. Guns drawn. Muzzles. Smoke dipped low. Leonard froze, then dropped to his knees. Millicent raised her hands. Raindrops traced tears down her face. Cressida sobbed. Cut scene. A helicopter whirred overhead. Flash bulbs stabbed the night. Reporters. Cameras. Lights too bright to hide shadows. I'm done being invisible, I told them. Invisible doesn't file taxes. Invisible doesn't sign contracts. Invisible doesn't have a name for prosecutors to read. Cut scene. Sirens. Handcuffs. Federal transport vans. Leonard in cuffs. Millicent pulled away, twisting, screaming. She screamed, "This family doesn't die." I stepped back. Rain plastered the hangar walls. The smell of gasoline faded. The smell of justice burned hotter. Cut scene. Weeks later, I left Charleston. No mansion. No name that still meant anything there. Just a duffel bag, a volunteer badge, and a lease signed at a tiny apartment near the coast. Sunrise hit the window softly. The salt wind smelled like second chances. I visited the elderly woman whose name had been on the fake medical aid charity my family ran. Gave her a check. A real check. With my name. My signature. She held my hand and whispered, "Not all blood is betrayal. Some of it is liberation." Cut scene. I burned the remaining papers tied to the Caldwell Trust. The ash settled over the Atlantic breeze. I whispered under the wind. Truth isn't a weapon, it's my oath. Rain fell again, light, steady, cleansing. They lost everything. I gained what I should have had all along. Peace. And maybe that's the real inheritance. The one no ledger can erase. The name, Caldwell, stays buried. But I am finally free.